Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Wow, good group, huh? I love it when the tour bus comes by because we get a little section of that. I had something to say. That's gone. All right. Yeah. Finally, a sermon ended by senility. We are in the second to last week of Ecclesiastes, and I hope you've loved it as much as we have loved doing it. Life worth living. And now it gets very, very personal for Solomon. And it's his last chance. There's no theorizing. There's no ranting. He's talking to us as personally as he can, maybe to himself. But boy, have I gone through it in preparing this message. I wish so much I could have set up chairs down at Christown and got us all on the light rail and taken us down and given this message there, because it would be very fitting. Let me read the passage. Chapter 11, I'm going to pick it up in verse 7. Wow, the language that he's using is different than anywhere else in the book. He says the light is pleasant, and it's good for the eyes to see the sun. The word pleasant there is literally, there's going to be two places where he uses pleasant. This one means sweet. The light in the sky, the light in certain settings is so sweet, and it's good for the eyes to see the sun. If a man should live many years, let him rejoice in all of them, and let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. Everything that's to come will be futility. All Solomon really knew was the concept of Sheol. He didn't know about the resurrection. He didn't fully know about the eternal state. He didn't know about heaven, really. And so all he could say is, all I know is that there's days right now, and they're full of light and beauty. Don't miss a stinking one of them. Because all I know is it gets dark and weird, and people go away and they're buried, and that's all I know. It seems like futility to me. Rejoice, play, be loud, be fun, have the entire time of your life, young man, during your childhood. And let your heart be pleasant during the days of your young manhood. You follow the impulses of your heart and desires of your eyes. Yet know that God will bring to judgment you for all these things. He loses it for a second, okay? That's how the Hebrew reads. All of a sudden it goes into that voice. Really strange. So remove grief and anger from your heart and put away pain for your body, because childhood and the prime of life are fleeting. Now I want to say, for sure, childhood is fleeting. But is the prime of life fleeting? It's kind of my thesis today. Is the prime of life a season of time like in your 30s and 40s? Or is the prime of life a way of seeing? A mile and a half south is Christown. When I got here in 1967, Christown was the place. Oh my gosh. The realtor, when we were in California, said, Mrs. Lynch, and I was right there listening, there's a place in Phoenix where you're going to move, and we're going to try to get you close to it. It's called the Miracle Mile. Indoor, a mile of shopping. And I just started, what would that be like? Well, we moved here in 67 on June 24th, and I met some friends, and we owned Christown. I know it's not much now, but then it was a place. My gosh, I can't tell you what we do. What do? You're bored, you're kids, it's summertime. You pretend you're mannequins in the store. That's what you do. So there was Montgomery Ward, remember, it was in the far end, and Montgomery Ward had those displays of lawnmowers with mannequins taking them, and we would just move them aside, and then we would be there. And like sometimes for 20 minutes, just until like a homeowner who wanted to look at a lawnmower, and then we'd go, hey, ah! That's terrifying. Oh, were we funny? Gosh, we were funny. I was a mannequin out of the front of Christown, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people gathered around. I was just doing that. And I froze like that for 10 minutes till Eddie Shapiro and Wayne Botkin came in their station wagon and grabbed me just like that, frozen, and just pulled me away. So funny! I mean, God, we were it! And I got kicked out of Christown. I was asked to leave. These terms, leave and never come back. I got kicked out for singing Strangers in the Night on a planter. And I thought it was very good, but the security guard did not appreciate it. Wow. But our favorite things to do were, there used to be a place, most of you don't remember, but down on Central called the Palms Theater. And the Palms Theater was just, it was great because back in the day, all you had was the screen and a curtain in front of it. And there were no commercials, there were no front pieces, there was just, you sat in your chair, you got your popcorn, and the movie came on. It was just beautiful. I lived for it. My friends would dare me, and then I would go up right before I knew when the movie was going to start, and I would walk out and say, everybody, thank you. Thank you so much. Most of you I've known all my life. And gosh, I'm just so honored. Some of you I don't know, Jerry. So, well, listen, this means everything to me. And what I've done is I've picked out a movie that I'd like you to see. And we can stay after and talk more about it. But for right now, enjoy Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And people would just, God bless you, just, oh. We did that over and over and over and over. I wish I could show you this. If my house was burning, I would go, do I get Bailey out and my wife, or do I take this? And hopefully I'd have time for both. But if not, I might have to just go with this. She's lived a good life. This is a picture when we were freshmen in college. These were some of my dearest friends, and we just wanted to be crazy and wild. And none of this was we went out one day, and we just planned this for weeks, that we would just dress up really, like Chris Radke's got an aviator's hat on. We would go out in the middle of the desert, as far as we could from anything, and just play cards. It was the middle of summer, just as hot as it could be. Chris Radke's got the aviator helmet, and he's no shirt, and he's got welder's gloves and a Boy Scout tie on. And Sandy Mason, who is a pastor over at Desert View Church over in Scottsdale, he's got a derby on with a little ace in the card on his head. And Jim Adams is there. These guys, it was a circus of goodness for us to play. These guys, Tom Larkin owns a business out in Connecticut, and he writes to me every single week, spiritually kind of bringing life to me. Chris Radke's one of my very, very best friends still to this day. Jim Adams, he's a counselor. Jim Adams was a school teacher and has been one of my very, very best friends. And Sandy is a pastor out at Desert View. Is it crazy? After all those years, that would have been 45 years ago. And we wanted so much. Would you just pass it around? Yeah. Anyway, everything Solomon's talking about, this represents for me the sacredness of this. So Solomon steps back far enough from his cynicism to dare young men and women to dream big and risk what the heart can imagine and what the eyes can take in. This, he says, this is that season of adventure. Do not miss it. This is that time before commitments of love compel me to stay put, to honor my influence. I wish someone had told me about the gap year. Where was the gap year when we were young? There was no gap year. You millennials invented it. You made it for yourselves. The gap year, the older people don't know what the gap year is. The gap year is the time between high school and college, or college and graduate school, or graduate school and going into real life. You take a year where you just go, I'm going to go tour the world. I'm going to find money. I'm going to go do a Fundly thing or whatever, but I'm just going to go do it. Oh, I would have loved that. I honestly, I was not mature enough when I started college to do college. I just wasn't. I was just going through the motions with my parents' money. I so wish someone had guided me to travel with several friends to far-off lands like Iceland or Spain or Venice or the Outback or the Dingle Peninsula, to wander through villages where they don't speak English, to work for another currency, to have been momentarily infatuated with a girl on a bicycle with a basket of flowers who would blow me a kiss and then I'd never see her again. To stay places where it's safe to stay out late and play chess with older people, asking their regrets and new dreams, where a larger worldview would have shaped my politics and faith and love for those outside my culture. Is primal life a period of time, or is it a way of seeing? I'm going to kind of walk through like 8 statements that kind of help me understand what Solomon's saying. He says first in verse 8, you don't miss this. Make each sweet day count. Laugh and play hard as a kid. Keep your heart well as a young adult. Learn to follow your maturing, trustworthy heart and eyes. And don't get trapped in immorality. Be free from bitterness and anger. And let God keep you in the prime of life. Make each sweet day. I love it. Solomon, how are you getting so poetic? The light is pleasant, and it's good for the eyes to see the sun. Rejoice in every single day that we could see the sun. If you're from Portland, like that's a whole lifetime. It's only like 47 days. But if you're from Phoenix, you get to take this, and it means something. Because it's sunny every day. And for a kid, it's so hot. And you don't know what to do, so you just want it. Gosh, you wanted to be big league, so we invented hot boxing. Nobody had ever done it before us, I'm certain. But Jim Adams and I we did this thing where my dad gave, gosh, never let your kids borrow your cars when they're in high school. I destroyed that car. It was like I did whatever came to mind. But anyways, on this day, my dad's 65 Chevy Nova, and Jim Adams and I got in it, rolled up all the windows, closed it up as tight as we could, and turned off all the air conditioning. It's like 115 out. And we would just go as far as we could, driving around Phoenix until one of us would snap. I got to take it! And we would just immediately, wherever we were, just open up the car doors, and for like 5 seconds, you're freezing. In 115 heat, we would laugh. Yes, there was a little brain damage from that. I'm sure, but it was worth it, man. Light, sun. We have a patio in our backyard, and it is nothing. It's just a small. No, it's not nothing. You guys made it. It's the most incredible place. This man headed up, having it made. But it's nothing without lights above it. And then as soon as these lights get turned on, that patio is, I can't tell you the magical evenings that have taken place there, because God loves for us to enter into the moment in light. Sacred. Gosh, if you haven't gone to Paris, you have to rent Midnight in Paris, because the first 10 minutes just show the lights of Paris and the power and the beauty and the romance and the seduction and the delight and the heroism that comes with those lights. Sun. Stacy and I have a standing rule. Whenever there's a beautiful sunset or beautiful sunrise, no matter what you're doing, you get to pull rank and just say, "Get out here now! Now!" And we go stand out in the front yard with Bailey. We used to do it with our kids, but we just do it now and go, yeah, because you only get a certain amount of them. So don't let anything cause you to miss these beautiful days. So many times in my life, I've wasted magical days stuck in my head. How am I coming across? Am I being respected? Or I just got my feelings hurt? And I miss them. Solomon's saying God gives you a number of them. Yes, you know that we're going to go home, but it won't be like this again. Don't miss one more. Drink it in. And I put, of course I do lists all the time. I wrote down the art of enjoying light. This isn't, last night I wrote this and I thought, I don't know if this helps you at all, but it helps me. Learn to get alone with God during sunsets, as many as you can in your lifetime. There's something bittersweet in a sunset, because it's wrapping up. And so you just have this very real time with Him. Share with friends, stare with friends at city lights. Try to find a career that allows you into the light. Cultivate an appreciation of all goodness. Articulate appreciation to someone else. Don't get lost in your head. Whatever that takes. I say that, I don't know how to tell you to do that. But I know what it means for me to be present, to say, stop, John, you're doing it again. Come back. People need you right now. Get out of your head. Don't miss your own party. How many parties have I thrown that I totally missed? Don't get lost in comparisons. Oh gosh, I'm at this beautiful thing, but it belongs to this person. Not at this moment, it doesn't. You just enjoy it. Don't get lost in comparisons. Challenge preoccupation with what keeps you in stores. Stores have bad lighting. Did you ever see Joe versus the volcano? Yeah, right in there. Am I right? Enough with that. Get out of stores. And let God and others help you heal from preoccupation with pain and wounding. This is, I have a friend who won't come to Open Door because we don't have windows. And he shouldn't. Neither should you. Let's go! Guys, it is a call. It is a sacred call to say, do not miss another day, John. And then he goes through a chronology. I'll always get it backwards. I'll end up going this way. But he starts talking about, as a young child, what that should be, what that time should be about. And he moves on through your life. And so he says, first, laugh and play hard as a kid. Rejoice, young man, during your childhood. Joy, delight. One of the greatest things you could do as a parent is create an environment where your kids get to be kids, where they don't have to be the adult, where they don't have to guard their hearts. This is that season when they get to cultivate an appreciation of light and sun. It's playful, it's laughter, it's times where they just, arms behind their heads, out in the grass with friends with grass in their teeth, and they're laughing and making fun of each other, but it's a beautiful making fun of each other, and they have to worry about nothing. They're finding out who they are. They're finding out what it feels like to be known, to be loved, to enjoy. You give them that. You allow them settings where they get to start conceiving God. You create those things. Let them play. Teach responsibility if you have to, but don't let it get in the way of this. This is that first part, and it is as sacred because it forms everything else. And then he says, and let your heart be pleasant during the days of young manhood. This is the challenge for every single parent. How do I get my children from this innocence of playing here, where just dirt and a Tonka toy or a fairy outfit will make them content? How do I get you to young manhood or womanhood and not have you get sick along the way? Not have something destroy your heart or wound your heart. Yes, there's going to be pain. You're going to fall. They're going to get scraped. Then they're going to cry. You're going to get to hold them. You're going to talk to them about Jesus. And then they're going to run back out and play again. But I'm talking about the really hard stuff. So that's the part where a parent, you have to know your children well enough and who they are around, so that you get to let them play and do wild stuff and yet not be with the person who can take them into darkness. This is maybe more about the parent in this passage than it is about the one doing it. So, my parents did not know how to do that with me. I hung out with Bruce Miller. He was great, and Louis Engel and a bunch of jock kids. But they probably shouldn't have let me hang out with Dave Barrows. And they probably, for sure, when that tough kid, that hood, that really bad kid they should not have let me hang out with him. But they came from a generation that just didn't know how to ask. They didn't know how to sit me down and be able to say, John, let's talk. How you doing, man? Tell me what do you guys do when you go hang out? Let me speak into that. They didn't have that chip. And I've told you that story. 5th grade, one day I got violated. I was on a walk and got taken into a orange train car, and the top got closed, and I got violated and was forced to violate. And this statement says, let your heart be pleasant during the days of young manhood. And pleasant now changes from sweet to healthy to well. It means let your heart be well. And I wasn't. Suddenly this innocent jock kid had this thing that the moment that it happened, I never told anyone. I never could tell anyone. I never told anyone till Bill Thrall after we had written the book True Face. Never told anyone. My parents just didn't know. If I could talk to them now, and I know that they know now, they were great parents, but they just didn't know how to ask, John, how you doing, kid? I love you. I just want to know about your day. I want to enter in. I would have told them. I was scared. I would have told them, this doesn't make sense right now, and they would have helped me. Gosh, you guys, parents, whatever that is, whatever I just said to you, that little gap in here from total innocence of this sweet time where it's just about fun, to the young adult, to allow that person to have their heart be pleasant, to be well, to not be sick. I know you can't control everything. I know you can't do that. God still is sovereign. But your interaction, your choice to be able to communicate, your choice to take time and not try to rule the world, it's everything. This is not about being their cop, but having a relationship that walks through their choices. I need to be allowed to play, but mostly in packs. My parents' responsibility is to know who I was around and to know them so that I'd be safe. So I walk into young adult, and my heart is not pleasant. It is not healthy. It is not well. And I'm compensating, and I'm trying to be the funny man, and I'm wearing a dozen masks. What I should have been doing was the next. Instead, I was crippled. Oh, guys, the beautiful thing is to watch your children, watch your grandchildren for redemption, because I still carry crap that makes me weird and private. I will leave this world probably not fully healed. What does Dan Allender say? What's the cost of someone violating another? It's a lifetime. So, next step. Learn to follow your trustworthy heart and eyes, Solomon says. If we've gotten from here and we're here, even if you're not, you could still know Jesus. And the moment you know Jesus, you get a brand new heart. You're fused with Christ. You're not mature yet, but you have a new identity. You have new wiring in your system. And from now on in, your heart starts to become trustworthy, and your eyes start to have the ability to look and not have it all be perverse. They're starting to see things electric and beautiful. This verse sounds really wrong. And follow the impulses of your heart and the desires of your eyes, yet know that the Lord's going to bring you to judge him for all these. Have your fun, scarecrow. But you watch, this is going to get ugly. He's going to make you pay. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying, hey, go sow your wild oats, but God's going to make you pay for it. Do you know that there's, in the Middle East, in religion that is full of law, they give kids a 2-year window to go do what you want to do. In fact, there's designated areas. Bahrain's one of them. There's certain islands and cities where you can go for 2 years and just kind of sow your wild oats and do crazy stuff and be wild and get it out of your system and then go back to real life. Stupidest thing in the world, but that's what law does. Law creates a thing and says, and we'll let you get away with it for 2 years and then go back, and now all you do is hide for the rest of your life because you want that. Because you're under law. Instead, he's saying this. You're starting to come of an age now. Your heart longs now to go on young adult adventure. From discovering the backyard to discovering the world out there. You haven't yet made deep commitments. There will be a time when love will compel you to stay somewhere to honor the influence that you've been awarded, but not now. Oh, you guys, this is the time to dream. This is the time to say, God, what do you want to do with my life? God, do you want me to go into missions? God, and by the way, you can't blow it. Let's say you choose to go into missions and you get over there and find out that it didn't work out the way God says, I got this. I'm totally in control. I'm sovereign. I know what to do with it. I had it even before I was a Christian. Sandy Mason and I, the pastor who's over at Desert View, we were on our way back from class to our fraternity at ASU. And there's a train that goes by. Do you know that? There's a train goes by on the tracks there, and Sandy and I looked at each other one day. We were just tired, weary of classes, weary of doing college. And I looked at Sandy, and I said, what do you say? We just drop everything and get on that train. And he said, you too? You want to do that? I said, I do. What do you say tomorrow we do it? We just take a backpack and leave everything else and we just go. And he goes, I'm in. And then we went inside, had lunch in the fraternity, and one of the guys said, you know where that train's going to take you? A half mile down the road to the APS station. You just get in there. Living the life, man. I'm good. Just have to walk back a half mile. But somebody has to teach this. The best thing you can do as a parent, your child has a maturing, God-infused, trustworthy heart if they're a believer. And what if we helped our young adults to risk that and stayed really close and had a network and community of friends that could stay so close? This is that time. Let your eyes fall in love, have romance, have infatuation, dress up, dream of something to do bigger than counting beans. And what if those of us who knew Jesus could be taught how to face sin in a context of playful, unbridled, unguarded joy instead of being frightened into endless mistrust of my very person? Yeah. I love what Bruce Cockburn says in this one of his songs. He says, I learned as a child not to trust in my body. I've carried that burden through my life. This believer in unhealthy religion says, yeah, I carried that burden all the way through my life. What if purity didn't mean guarded, religious-looking blandness? What if older, wiser believers were standing nearby as I explored my passions, affirming and ready to give me a way home if and when I stepped into violation? What if a life in faith was more freaking, exciting, and delightfully wild than anything darkness could offer? What if I had a chance to choose purity instead of being forced into it? What if I had a chance to grow into faithfulness and emotional maturity rather than being compelled to hide what I was thinking? What if there was someone there to help reinterpret my identity if I did get into darkness and got lost? This is like what maybe even a community could do, like what a really healthy church sees as its highest purpose. I think it would leave us more confident in how big our God is to protect us. And I think when that time came to pick a place and live in it, we would carry less resentment for what we didn't get to explore and be fully alive. And we would get to be content and full of delight in our marriages and our commitments in our family. I carry so much pain formed in those years because I didn't yet know God and I wandered unprotected into so many promising but disappointing pastel-colored alleys. But many carry pain formed in those years because we did know God, but we were not allowed to risk learning to trust Him. If the ultimate goal was not just keeping me from doing the big sins in my youth, and instead was about helping me learn how to depend upon the redemption of Christ in me when I did fail, what a marvelously different life I think it would be. I'd far rather my children fail morally often and learn how to depend upon God in them for their integrity than to never fail in the self-sufficiency of their own willpower. I believe this with all my heart, what I just wrote there. I'd far rather my children fail morally often and learn to depend upon God in them for their integrity than to never fail in the self-sufficiency of their own willpower. You're going to have to decide if you believe that. It is a watershed place in the Christian faith. It's a different way of how to parent. It's a different way of how to see life. And most places I go would look at that and say, no, that's not right. We want moralistic. We want moralism. We want right behavior at all costs. And that's a cost that I have chosen with all my heart to not pay. I will go there, but this is really, really costly for you to dare risk that you would say that you believe that. And that's what this place has to be there to stand with you in. And then Solomon's next idea is don't get trapped in immorality. See, this is the art of parenting, of friendship, of drawing others from hiddenness when it gets dark. I thought I knew how to do that. I would ask the kids, is there anything scaring you today? Anything confusing you? Anything frightening you? But I got to tell you guys, I was also preoccupied in being great. And sometimes I missed my kids' hearts. All three of them. I wonder if I'm missing right now Carly as she's out at graduate school in Boston. I want to be able to be there to say, what's scaring you? What's frightening you? Are you okay? Because as Solomon says, you have to live with what you choose to allow in. Pornography has lifelong repercussions. That's why we got involved with that movie, The Heart of Man. Solomon's correct. There's consequence to that. But here's what Solomon didn't know. There is a consequence to sin, but there is greater beauty in learning how to resolve sin. Solomon doesn't understand that the cross takes away its punishment, its shame, and its identity and power. And it's not enough for me to preach those words. We have to, as a community, figure out how to live those words. The cross takes away punishment. It takes away shame and gives me a new identity. It gives me an identity, and it gives me power to deal with sin. All of our Sunday school teachers, all of our children's teachers, all of our preachers, all of us mentors, all of us who are teaching any class, any home group, how? How does that live out so that I don't get trapped? Oh gosh, how many people are trapped in a lifetime of stuff that they do not know how to give up, and they keep having to bluff through. Okay. So you have a blast as a kid. Hopefully you get to have a pleasant heart, one that is well, or it can be healed well. Now Solomon says, I have this fear for you, about 30 or 40, somewhere in there. I want you to be free from bitterness and anger. He says, so remove grief and anger from your heart and put away pain from your body. Grief, interesting, its number one usage is bitterness. There's going to be things, oh gosh, guys, I was like the golden boy. Everybody, it seemed, that I came in contact with, when I became a Christian, I started being a pastor, it felt like everybody loved me. If you didn't love me, you sure didn't let it be known. I was the golden boy. And then something happened about age 30-something. We got a hate letter. Somebody didn't like us. It freaked me out. I couldn't believe it. And then more things happened over time in that season of my prime of life, and I got less funny. Because I was guarded. It was like, I don't have anything. Why would you do that? And Solomon says, this is from God himself. Remove grief and bitterness and anger. We deal with this really well in The Cure. Please spend time with that. Wherever you can find any of those books that help you talk about processing. These are the exact responses from hurting another with no resolve and being hurt with no resolve. It poisons and cripples you. It takes emotion and heart priority away from those who are most dear to you and drives you to dwell on the one who has hurt you. You get hurt twice. Not only do you get hurt, but now you become the issue. It begins to create a channel that is not easily returned from. It keeps life from being sweet, from seeing sweet days. It keeps your heart from being pleasant, healthy. It robs your youth. How do you get home from anger and bitterness? Again, guys, another list, and one day I'll do the greatest hits of my lists, but for now, I just feel like there has to be enough things to fill a page for it to be a real list. Some of these may help you. Some of them are just written to know that I can still write. You must find someone mature enough to walk it through with. That's job one. You must come clean with what you did and what was done to you. I told you that. I never came clean with that all the way until Bill and I were up at some conference in Seattle and Bruce and I were together. I never came clean with it all those years. I was sick. And I didn't know I was sick. It had made me angry and wounded and full of grief. You must come clean, and then you must learn how to forgive and let go. That whole beautiful section in chapter 4, chapter 5 in The Cure, where we talk about forgiving for your sake, not letting anybody off the hook, but getting the hooks out of you. Gosh, is that a gift? In humility, say, God, I can't control this. I can't run this. I'm letting go of this. Please take care of my name. Please take care of me, because I have no other plan now. I was judge and jury before, and I'm letting go of that. And God says, then watch this. And the hooks will come out. You have to trust God with the consequence of leaving it. You have to trust God with maintaining and restoring your name. You have to carry very few things in life that can block your joy. You have to deal with the shame that makes you angry. I feel like I was never enough back here with the dad. I feel like I was never enough as an athlete. I feel like I got violated, so why would I even be worth, gosh, that baseball player that you showed Caleb yesterday, and I am second. Golly. And you must let go of the presumption that all adults should be fully mature and give them the freedom to fail and repent. One of the troubles is if you get wounded when you're young by an adult, you feel like all adults have to be perfect and idealized, and they're just not. God loves us so much. He loves me so freaking much, so very, very, very delightfully much. And few things hurt him like me being crippled by bitterness and anger. Because he knows what it costs. And he will try everything. And recently, my pattern was so deep. Somebody says, nobody can internalize pain like you do, John. Well, thank you very much. But I was, and it was crushing me. I told Stacy, we were out on a walk on the beach. I said, I don't want to keep living. I don't want to take my life or anything like that, but I don't like my life right now. God, it broke his heart. So you have to deal with this any way your theology allows it, any way your medical understanding or biology does it, or how God does things or doesn't do things, or his sovereignty and control. But God allowed me to have a stroke. Because he loves me. And one moment I had the issue, and the next moment it was gone. I don't know where it went. And suddenly I can barely remember the issue. And now I'm unwilling to go back to those places. I can't. He didn't do it because he was mad at me. He allowed it because he stinking adores me. I'll drop anything that threatens me going back there again. Like Jacob, my hip's out of joint and will always be out of joint. I don't have the capacity to do the things I did before, and it's okay. The moral of the story is not that you should have a stroke. The moral of the story is believe this before anything happens that never needed to happen. And let God keep you in the prime of life. Reclaim a theology that allows you to keep seeing the sun and light as pleasant. Get help to heal from the wounds that you tuck away. Face your anger and bitterness and grief and give yourself a chance to do what you missed, but this time maybe with safe friends and a spouse to go play with you. You know why I believe that it's not a season for the prime of life, that it's a way of seeing? Because I'm looking at that man in the audience. His name's Wendell Sheets. And he kept loving people way past the prime of life. He now is slowing down a little bit. But he still picks berries. We have berries he and Hazel picked for us just the other day. That old man's still in the prime of life. I got John Boring. John Boring told me the other day, he's 80-something. He says, I got to go to Normandy. He says, I want to sit at one of those French cafes where they're on the corner, and I want to go down the Champs-Élysées. I want to go to the Eiffel Tower. And nobody's going to be able to keep up with him. That man's still in the prime of life. Now, I know some of you, this is a hard message because it hurts and because the hurt is enclosed and because the wounding is open and the things are not resolved. So I want to, as we come to the table, gosh, I'm so proud that Tom, you're going to be coming up in a moment. Would you put up that last slide? Many carry regret as a parent or a child from someplace on this journey. And so this is the table. This is the table where it was all taken care of. Where Jesus paid for everything. Everything. Even the things you don't know about yet. This is the place where you're given a front row seat. Take the bread, drink the cup. This is the place where you're given a get out of jail card. Where you're given a safe corner to repent and grieve and heal. Where you're given a roadmap to start over right here, right now. Where you get to lead with the love of Christ in you. This place, right now.